Hi everyone, welcome to my talk about Chinese medicine, classical Chinese medicine. What Dylan asked me to talk about today is the Fire God School or Fire Sage School, which I wrote here, the Hunyuan. And before we start, I want to say something. I talked to Dylan right before the class, and also a friend of mine who teaches in one of the schools here in the States for many years told me, when we go to school for 3-4 years, we all know that we don't study Chinese medicine. After we graduate, that's when we really start learning Chinese medicine. And what I'm trying to talk about today is really not what we have to do in school or not. Because we have all kinds of requirements today to study Western medicine and get the license. Things that many times are not really related to Chinese medicine. But what I want to talk about today is Chinese medicine. So it's sometimes could be not related to what we study in school. But nonetheless, in the last 2,000 years, they were the core of Chinese medicine. When we talk about the Fire Sage School, or the so-called Fire Sage School, or the Fire God School, in reality there is no such school. People who practice this, they don't call themselves the Fire God School. It's only other people call them the Fire God School. Meaning, and the reason is they use hot herbs like fuzhe, rogui, ganjiang, and all these things in big quantities. And people just don't understand why they do that. So they say this is something which is separate from us. Like, we don't necessarily dig it. This belongs to the Hunyuan. This is the Fire Sage School. But the founder of the Fire Sage School, and I call it on purpose Fire Sage School because the name Hunyuan means fire god or fire spirit. But when people called Hunyuan, the founder of this school at the late 1800s, he is like a fire god, they didn't mean he's a god of fires. He's like a sage, a man that excels all normal capabilities of using Chinese medicine, meaning he mastered it so much that he would just heal people in a very, very amazing way. So they call him like fire sage, the one who deals with fire like a sage. So that's why I use the new term Fire Sage School. But this school, for people that I know that practice these methods of Zheng Qing'an, which basically are the method of Zhang Zhongjing from the Hunyuan, there's nothing to say that it is a school. It's not different. This is Chinese medicine for us practicing it, and a very potent one. So I want to bring a story that I shared before, if some of you watched the webinars I did on TCM TV, of a friend of mine who did with me the doctoral program in California. And he had an accident. A boulder fell on his hand and smashed 3 of his fingers. And they airlifted him to the hospital and they looked at it. The doctor said, listen, everything is crashed. It's already black. All the blood vessels are crashed. And probably we'll give it another 3 days or so, and then we have to amputate the fingers. So now this guy is doing the doctoral with me in the school, and there's like in Santa Cruz, about 5,000 acupuncturists. And on the faculty there, everyone is 20, 30, 40 years practicing Chinese medicine. Unanimously, everybody told him, use blood-moving herbs. Right? Because the doctor said all the vessels are crashed, let's start moving the blood. But from what I study, researching the classics and the Hunyuan, or what we call the Fire Sage School, which is not really a school, it's just understanding Chinese medicine or the roots of the problem. The fingers are black, which is the Shaoyin color of the kidney coming out. And the Neijing said when this color comes out, it means life wants to separate. That's why the fingers are going to fall off or die out. So the treatment action is to revive the Shaoyin fire, meaning bring life back. This is the root, what the fire sage holds on to so dearly. How do we bring the life back? So because he read my book already at the time, it was just a manuscript, not published yet, and he really liked it and was impressed by it, he asked me, he called me, I was in Connecticut, he's in California. I didn't even see him. He said, what do you think I should do? So I wrote him a prescription with 150 grams of foods and many other hot herbs, rogui, guizhe, ganjiang, everything, banxia, etc. And not one single herb to move the blood. Not tao ren, not siwutang, none of these herbs, not dangui. And he said, I'll do it. He has only 3 days. But he said, I really want to save my fingers. So every day he drinks 200 grams of food. And food, obviously there's a big issue with that. It needs to have good quality, etc., etc. You need to know what you're doing. You can't just use the Chinatown foods in here. So you need to have traditionally prepared foods, which I sent him overnight him. And he used 200 grams of foods every day for 3 days, then went back to the surgeon. The surgeon said, a miracle. Fingers are alive again. Got the color back. But what do you think would happen if you would use blood-moving herbs? In my opinion, the fingers would probably fall off by themselves. Don't need to repeat it. The same is right now. Before I came here, there was a patient from North Carolina who just came here to the city for a visit. And I told her I'll be here, coming here, and she asked me if I can see her. I saw her maybe, I don't know, a few years ago, and I told her that I will speak about her when I come to this class. She has like a problem of hot flashes, but really raging hot flashes of the worst kind, that you can't go to sleep all night and it feels really hot. And every year she calls me for about the last 2-3 years. She said, I had really these terrible hot flashes, and I went to the doctors. They want to put me on hormone replacement therapy, etc., etc. They said I'm in menopause. So I sent her this herbal formula, this style of Chinese medicine. And she said every time she takes it for 2 days, the hot flashes are gone for the next year. So every year it starts recurring because she runs marathon or do stuff, sweats a lot. All of a sudden hot flashes come back again. She gets this, and 2 weeks ago she called me again with the hot flashes, and I sent her the formula. And I just met her before in Starbucks here on the next block, and she said she couldn't come. She has to catch the flight. But she said it took 2 days. The doctor said we have to put you on hormone replacement therapy. What do you think, how long will she have to be on the HRT? If not for the next 10 years. So she took her 2 days of herbal formulas to correct it. So at the end, what it comes down with the people that practice this kind of medicine that other people name Fire God School is really the clinical efficacy of it. And it's not that we use super hot herbs all the time, but we do use them most of the time, but not all the time. Sometimes if you use it, it's a catastrophe. But if you can't tell the difference, then you're going to have catastrophes frequenting your practice. And that's a really bad thing for acupuncturists. So in the course that I'm doing now, started this month, I have a group of acupuncturists. They all practice for 20 years or more that want to go back to the classics, and they started studying with me this stuff. The reason is the clinical efficacy. Meaning Chinese medicine, the way it used to work in the time of Zhang Zhongjing and throughout the ages, was very, very potent kind of medicine. And today it's kind of like dwindling down because of all kinds of requirements and constrictions imposed on our medicine by not acupuncturists. Right? What you can do, what you should do, what you shouldn't do, otherwise, license and the such. So for us, Chinese medicine practitioners, to learn the real root of Chinese medicine, like meaning what is really significant and how can we use potent medicine without errors, is really, really important, even more important than Western doctors, because Western medicine is super potent, but they have liability insurance and malpractice insurance, and if patient die, God forbid, it's not their problem. They do what the medicine allows them to do. But for us, the medicine doesn't allow us much, except using what we call even soups, meaning medicine that is not very strong. It's okay, it's strong sometimes, but not really. And the results are like this too. 100 acupuncturists recommended to my friend to use similar herbal formulas, and they were all wrong. So meaning also following with the herd is not the greatest thing either. The medicine would not work, or would work to a mediocre level. And Chinese medicine, at least from the way I perceive it, the way I studied it with my teacher, is not to be mediocre. It could be super potent. But if you use potent medicine with potent herbs, then you really need to know what you're doing, otherwise there's a problem. You can't dilly-dally, and then something wrong is going on. We can't allow something wrong to go on. So Zheng Qingyuan, the founder of this school, or people called him the Fire God, was no God at all. he just studied the first half of his life, the Chinese classics, not just Chinese medicine, the Confucian classics, with his teacher, Liu Zhitong. And after that, he went into the medicine field already very connected to the root that the Chinese classics are looking for throughout the ages. And today we kind of not really sure about what the root is anymore. So yesterday in the class that I had with my course, with the Hunyuan certification course, I talked to them about it. You know, we say in Chinese medicine that we treat the root and not the symptoms, right? Don't we learn that in school? But Western medicine, doesn't it treat the root also? I mean, if you go to CVS and you buy some Tylenol for headaches, you say, okay, they treat the headache. But let's say you treat on some more serious problem. Let's say like pain in the chest, and there's problem with the heart, and they go inside the heart and they unplug it, or you know, do whatever surgery, bypass. Don't they treat the root? The pain in the chest is caused by the heart not working. They go inside with the most advanced and vigorous medicine to cure the problem. So when we say, for example, we have headaches and this comes because of liver yang rising or liver qing stagnation or whatever we want to call it, we said, okay, we treat the liver. That's really the root. But the root that, you know, Zheng Qing'an and Zhang Zhongjing and the Shang Han Lun and the Neijing, the Ling Shu, they talk about is different than that. It's not because we say the headaches come from the liver qi stagnation that this is the root. This is not the root. The root is, why is the liver qi stagnating? Why is the kidney yang deficient? That's the root. Not that the kidney yang is deficient is the root. Otherwise, we're exactly like Western medicine. And that's the difference. So if you can hold on to the root and understand it, and this is very, very difficult to understand, but if you can hold on to this root, the application of medicine, the herbs and acupuncture, then go to this root, to the real root of the problem. And then you can have stories like I'm telling you, like this patient with hot flashes, that it is agreed by all that she needs medicine for a long, long time. She take herbs for 2 days and done. The fingers are going to fall 3 days and done, and they're back. I mean, the surgeon still had to put nails on this, but they didn't amputate them anymore. Come back to life. This is the root. How to bring things back to life is quite difficult to understand. That's why Zheng Qing'an studied the Yi Jing, the classics, the Neijing, the Confucius classics, etc., to be able to get close to this root. Try to understand, where is it coming from? Why is life the way it is, and how do we remedy it? So yesterday in my class, I talked about something I can touch briefly on today. The sages said, the heaven changes are eternal. The human life is limited. That's why the man always follows the heaven. The more we become like heaven, or our transformation, our changes are like heaven, the longer life we have. This is the real root of all the problems, and it's easy for me to say, but it's really very difficult to understand the full meaning of it, and then how do we bring it into the practice? How do we apply it in clinic? So there's a way here to walk, and grinding the classics obviously is one of it. You know, in modern medicine, the way to prove things is by RCI, right? RCTs, randomized controlled studies. Is that what it's called? RTCs, what is it called? Trials, right, randomized trials. And I hear it on the radio all the time. 500,000 vitamin D units is good for, I don't know, whatever problems, because this study showed it. Or that drug is good for this because we did a study for 2 years and it showed reduced risk of heart disease. And this, for us, it's very easy to understand, right? They say this study, whatever we did in the study proved it. Now we understand it. But Chinese medicine works on what we call inner vision, meaning through contemplation that practitioners like Zhang Zhongjing and Zheng Qing'an over the ages understood the meaning, the root of things. Now you can't do trials to prove that. You have to have certain level of contemplations to be able to grasp it. And this is where Chinese medicine way of study Chinese medicine is different than Western medicine. So the traditional way of Chinese medicine to study is, first is people grinding the classes over and over again in order to read this kind of contemplation. And then you need to have a teacher to be able to transmit this knowledge. But the condition, the precondition that must exist during studying Chinese medicine is what we call humility. The student can't say, I know as much as the teacher. And that's what happens today in classes in acupuncture schools all the time. If there are, and there aren't, but if they were, theories that are very, very difficult to grasp, the student immediately will say, I don't get it, hence I don't agree with it. But that's not how Chinese medicine works. Chinese medicine means, I don't get it, let me contemplate. With the time I'll get it. Meaning there is a trust with the teacher. Otherwise I shouldn't study with him. Go find another teacher, which I believe to be competent. But this is the traditional Chinese medicine way of cultivating Chinese medicine skill, which is different than the way we study today. And again, the introduction that I said at the beginning is we have to study today in school the way we do if we want to get our license. But today I'm talking about Chinese medicine, which might be a little different. This kind of cultivation allows the breeding of this kind of skill that at the end can be translated into the clinic to such remarkable results. To be able to apply, for example, if needed, foods at 200 or 150 grams a day without danger. Versus other people say, hey, but today we know that we can only use 3 grams. I mean, foods, again, is a completely different subject, but it's not about the foods. But just for example, it is a potent herb. But the way it is mutilated today, etc., it's not a potent, it's just really bad herb. But if it is the good herb, it is still very, very potent. And the Fire Sage School, what they pride themselves on is that they use potent medicine, not that they use reckless medicine. And this is very, very different, meaning the people who practice this kind of medicine are very proud of themselves for the results they see in their clinic, which are very different than the common results we see in the clinic. And that's why people at that time called this guy and his followers today, Lu Chonghan, his father, his grandfather, and other people, they call them fire gods, meaning we don't understand what they're doing, but it works like God. But for us, what I want to introduce today is really, there is no God there. Zhang Zhongjing was no God. Zheng Qing'an was no God. No one is God. We all make up this theory, or we understand something on a different level, that's all. And this comes from inner vision and cultivation. So, I want to go into something more technical, because right now we're just talking about the big picture, and in the end we just don't know what the hell am I talking about. It's just like the big picture. But we want to talk just a little bit more practical, and to try to understand, and I have very, very short time to try to deliver any punchline here, but to try to understand why the Fire Sage School use a lot of hot herbs. It's not just fuzhe, but fuzhe and rogui and ganjian and paojian and all kind of stuff like this. Zheng Qing'an has 3 books. One of them is called Yili Jianquan, True Transmission of Chinese Medicine Principles. He was like at the end of the 1800s. And he writes at the introduction, at the beginning of the introduction of his book, he said, Yi xue yi tu, gu nan, yi yung yao. He said the art of medicine is not difficult with the use of herbs, of medicine. Ar nan yu shi zheng, but it is difficult to know the syndromes. Gu nan yu shi zheng, not difficult even with the syndromes. Ar nan yu shi yin yang, but it is difficult knowing yin and yang. This is his first sentence in his introduction, and at the beginning when we study in school here, yin-yang is very easy. Is there anyone here that doesn't understand yin-yang? Can you raise your hand? Very easy. Yeah. Okay. One person doesn't understand yin-yang. But at least on a superficial level, yin-yang is very easy to understand. Meaning you have day, night, hot, cold, going up, going down. Everybody can understand it. It doesn't matter if you study Chinese medicine or if you're a dentist. Everybody understands But the people like Zhang Qingyuan that wants they're trying to get closer and closer to the root of really what's happening, because at the end, the herbs and the acupuncture apply to that. It's not just we want to get philosophy going. It's all we want to get close to the truth, because according to that, you'll decide your treatment. If you're far away from the truth, you'll decide differently. And then it will not work, or will work in a mediocre way. And so I want to bring quote, Zhang Qingyuan valued the I Ching, studied it greatly, the Book of Changes, which is the root of Chinese medicine. And in the I Ching, there are different commentaries. Some of them are attributed to Confucius. One of them is called the Shi Zi Zhuan, the one commentary about the I Ching. And there is a famous quote in there that says, and this is my straight translation, so we don't spend too much time on Chinese. If the heaven and earth are in midst of harmony, then the myriad things are in pure transformation. And this is one of the things I talked with my class last night, so I'm talking just briefly about it today. We don't have much time. Pure transformation in Chinese called Hunyuan. So if heaven and earth unite in midst of harmony, what they call Hunyuan, Tiandi Hunyuan, whatever that means. Let's say we don't know what midst of harmony is. Then there is what we call pure transformation. And then the next sentence says, if male and female exchange essences or intercourse, then the myriad things are transformed into birth. So this is called Huachun, this is called Huashen. And this is part of getting close to the root. What's going on here? When heaven and earth, and I'm running really fast, but after that I will put the recording on YouTube, you can watch it again. If any of you are interested to join my course, you can do it in the next few days, otherwise the enrollment is closed. You can watch the recording of that. But pure transformation is eternal. What I said before, the sages said the heaven is eternal. The seasons, day and night, the full moon, empty moon, they go on forever. This is called pure transformation. The sages of Chinese medicine say the man reflects the heaven, and we need to follow it, not the other way around, like we do today. Not the heaven following us. The more we follow it, the more we have long life and less problems. But our life is called transforming into birth. When you transform into birth, when you transform into birth, that means there's death. You go in and you come out. When you have pure transformation, it's eternal. So the whole purpose, the root of Chinese medicine that we fail to study in school today is that we need to get close to this root. Meaning, how do we make our Huashen, transforming into birth, look like or get close to pure transformation? When we do with the herbs, with the acupuncture, is this. It's not easing liver qi stagnation. It's not tonifying the kidney yang. It's not moving the liver blood. This is Western medicine, meaning cause and effect kind of a situation. The liver qi, I move it, okay, no more headache. The Chinese medicine goal is really to get close to that. This kind of transformation, this kind of closeness, partially happens. I mean, if you read my book, I brought a few copies. Dylan asked, you can get a copy for $7 if you wanted to. But I wrote some about it. This kind of connection between our body to heaven happens during the yin time, which is at night when we go to sleep. What happened then is when the yang energy goes into storage. If we go to sleep, the energy recharges. Next day, feel great. We don't go to sleep, we don't feel great the next day. We don't sleep for a couple of months, our life is finished. From 100 years, it's 2 months, done. But if we sleep every night and recharge the batteries every night, all of a sudden we live many years of good life. This is the general concept. This kind of yang energy going back into storage is all what the Fire Sage school is about. whatever we're doing with the many different methods that we do is to be able to bring this energy back into storage. So the connection with heaven will happen. This kind of transformation will be more like this kind of transformation. This is the bottom line. And I'm skipping few months of lectures, jumping to the punchline. But there is obviously a lot of issues in there to discuss. This is not the issue, but that's the punchline. So when I use, for example, with this friend, the fingers want to fall off. 200 grams of foods in a certain combination, it is very, very powerfully bring the yang in this circle. Right? If this is the winter, the spring, the summer, and fall, this is where the storage of energy happens. With very strong, potent herbs, you bring the energy all the way back down. All of a sudden, the fingers come back alive. These patients that calls me once a year and drink herbs for 2 days and the hot flashes are gone, is because yang energy goes back. But of course, how to do it? What is the formula? Why would I use it? When can't I use it? When do I use Guizafa method before Sinifa? Sinifa is the herbs with the foods. The Guizafa could also have foods, but it's a different issue. Like what's Guizafa method? What's Sinifa method? A bunch of articles I have on the Hunyuan Research Institute also posted. You can go and check them out and read them. But this is the Chinese medicine. Chinese medicine is all in here. This place in winter at midnight when we go to sleep is when this happens. That's what the sages are looking for, this connection, that the man will connect to heaven. It's not philosophical. Like, yeah, let's talk about heaven, but at the end we just ease liver qi stagnation. This is the classical Chinese medicine. You read the Neijing, you read the Shanghanlun, they all talk about it. The only problem today is that studying the Neijing or Shanghanlun is an optional course. We don't have to study it at all. And this is what I'm talking to you about today. Studying Chinese medicine, you can start it now, even in the middle of school, on the way to get a license. But it might be different than what the requirements for the license are. And you spend so many years, you spend so much money. Obviously, you want to study Chinese medicine. Some people might just want to get the license, but most people really want to study Chinese medicine. Just don't know where to go, where to start. So my recommendation is as much classics as you can. Study Chinese, read the classics yourself, no translations. And the extra effort is worth it. But I have very, very short time to talk about. I wanted to deliver this punchline in a very rapid way. And I don't know if, because I want to leave some time for questions if you have any. So, any questions from the crowd for what I said?
So you could technically treat any person with any constitution using this method, or is this only for people who have issues with yang deficiency?
No. This is, I mean, there is yin deficiency. But if you learn, how many of you learned the Shanghanlun and the sixth sphere, sixth division, Liu Qing? Did everyone study it? No. But there is in the sixth sphere, which is the core foundation of Chinese medicine, in the Neijing and in the Shanghanlun. There is 3 yins and 3 yang. They have an opening, a closing, and a pivot. The pivot of the yang is Shao Yang, minister fire. The pivot of the yin is Shao Yin, emperor fire. So we have yin and yang, and the pivot of both of them is fire. Why is the fire? Why isn't the pivot of the yin ice cubes or cold water? Why is it fire? Why is fire moving everything? This is part of this relationship. The heaven, which is being yang, our life force that we have is all yang. And the yin energy is an issue. Why is it there? What is it doing? But it's a different, very, very different than what we learned it today. That's why Zheng Qing'an said the most difficult is to understand yin and yang. Not easy at all. But that's why you can use these hot herbs, not always, but many times, for patients that have yin deficiency, which is here. So this patient with the hot flashes, this might have been yin deficiency, that we call yin deficiency because the emperor fire is not working. And you use hot herbs to bring all the energy back into the Shao Yin, problem is gone. If you use Shu Di Huang and Liu Wei Di Huang kind of a solution, it's a catastrophe because it blocks the yang energy. It distances you from this root. It blocks the connection. So if you read some articles in my research institute about Chen Hunyuan and Zheng Jitsong, famous commentators from the Qing dynasty, they say people use the Shu Di Huang, they don't know what they're doing. They're harming the people, they're killing the people. There's a bunch of articles I wrote about it. You can read what the sages said about it. But it's different than what we're learning today. So many of the things we learn today are flat out wrong. But because it's hard for us to grasp many things, what became of Chinese medicine today is just a bunch of opinions. You have your opinion, I have my opinion. But it's not like this. If your opinion can be used, produce this kind of results, then the opinion is good. If it doesn't produces this kind of results, even if the normal results are mediocre, meaning you're with the average, this is not good. That's not what we strive for. We strive for excellence. Not say, hey, everybody do that. Everybody get the so-so results, meaning really strong hot flashes, you give away Di Huang Wan, and it looks good, but after 2 days it comes back, and then, for a week it's good, but then for 2 weeks it's really bad. And then we said, maybe not enough Shu Di. No one produces this kind of 2 days, the hot flushes don't come back for a year. Or at least not the common practice. This kind of fire sage school, they make it all the time. Like my kind of stories, small change compared to the stories I hear from my teachers and his teachers. So that's what I aspire for. I said, this is like miracles with Chinese medicine. Even though I'm not that good myself, that's where I want to go. It's not I don't want to do it because everybody does it, doesn't work, then I feel good. It needs to be like Western medicine, in potency. People get heart attack, he's going to die in 5 minutes. Go onto the surgery table, alive again. That's how Chinese medicine is supposed to work. But we need to study some other stuff. To study Chinese medicine. That's different. But yin deficiency, yang deficiency, the concept is warped today. So if there is real yin deficiency, then we can't use a lot of foods. But what we conceive today as yin deficiency many times is yang deficiency. Of the Shaoyin, the emperor fire is not right. What we call the dragon in the water has a problem. So the concept is different. But if it's yin deficiency, for example, in the Yang Ming section of the Shang Han Lun, where you have Zhang Zhongjing use the Bai Hu Jia Ren Shen Tang, right? Cold herbs, because the fire is blazing. If you use foods at this time, you kill the patient on the spot. You can't recognize it. Because the fire is blazing, the yin has to be consumed. So he has to save the yin. That's why he used Bai Hu Tang. The cold herbs, Shigao and this, Zhimo, is to save the yin. This is like tonifying the yin method, right? But he said, for example, with Cheng Qi Tang, Da Cheng Qi Tang, Xiao Cheng Qi Tang, right, with constipation, if the fire is blazing inside the intestine and you're really constipated in an acute phase, you purge the intestine, which will harm the yang, but will save the yin, meaning life will go on. And then he said, as soon as the bowel goes, you have to stop. Why does he say you have to stop purging? Why just keep on purging like people take today oatmeal if they're constipated for the next few years? He understands that if the yang energy is being harmed, you harm this connection. Life is severed. Life is harmed. That's not what Chinese medicine is supposed to do. But if fire is blazing and will dry out the yin, you have to knock it out first just to save the yin and then move into a different phase of the treatment. So we do have yin deficiency. In Zheng Qing'an book, this True Transmission of Chinese Medicine Principle, it has yin deficiency part and yang deficiency part. It's just very different than what we consider today. So obviously you can use it, should use it. It's just that the most difficult part is differentiating yin and yang. What's going on here? What do they mean? What's the symptoms? This today is and I want to tell you, like one of my main heroes in Chinese medicine is Wu Jutong. Did you hear about Wu Jutong? Wu Jutong is one of the main figures of the Wenbing school, the febrile disease school, right? You say this is fire sage school, they like hot herbs. The Wenbing school like cold herbs. Right? And Wu Jutong is one of my heroes. Why? Because he has a very famous book that he wrote, Wen Bing Tiaobian, when he was in his 40s. And then when he was in his 70s, a couple of years before he died, he wrote another book that I spoke before in my webinars about. It's called Yi Bing Shu, which means remedying the practitioner's disease, not the patient's disease. And this book is superior. This belongs to the sages. But unfortunately, no one translated it. In my institute, I translated a few chapters of it. And he says, followers of my school, this is in his lifetimes in the 1800s, followers of my school, of the Wen Bing school, they don't know what they're doing. They don't understand what I say. They don't understand what Ye Tianshi, his predecessor, said in his work about the Wen Bing. They use cold herbs indiscriminately and killing the patients. He said no one knows supplementing life like Zhang Zhongjing and the Shanghai Wen. So first he said everybody has to study the classics, including his own students, which they don't. And today, unfortunately, our education of Chinese medicine is heavily influenced by these people of the cold schools, which the founders of this school said they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how Zhang Zhongjing was the best in tonifying, in strengthening life. That's what he says. That's the Wen Bing school founder. He is the one that made Yin Qiao San and Sang Ju Yin. Did we hear about these formulas? For sure. He made them up. But nobody even reads what he has to say. It's like we do our own thing in school today. So even with the Yin Qiao San that you use for cold, right? Heat attacks. There's a whole description of what he means with it. And he say, you have to use them in powder because there's a certain quality to the herbs when you grind them into powder. You can't use them in decoctions. You can't use them in pills. So how come all the factories made to the Yin Qiao San 1, Yin Qiao San pills? They don't even care what he says. We have our own thing going on. Wu Zhitong said in this book, except from 1, 2, 3 kinds of problems, like after labor and delivery where there's loss of blood, etc., he said, all the diseases are yang deficiency. This is the founder of the Wen Bing school, but nobody knows about it. Who cares? That was when he was 30 years after he wrote the Wen Bing book. So obviously 30 years later he didn't get more stupid, right? Kind of more wise. He said all diseases are yang deficiency except 1, 2, 3. And this is very, very important for us to try to figure out. And he said many other things. I can't cover all of them. But really, really great. You see really, really great Chinese medicine physicians. The bottom line was, he said, you find it all in the classics. He said, the heaven is really far. That's what he says in this book. The heaven is really far, and we get our life from it. The earth is really close. Our body is all earth. Yet everyone is tonifying yin all the time. They harm this connection to heaven, he says. He said everything is reversed. What a joke. That's Wu Zhitong in his book. Now, it's not that I'm saying. What a joke, exclamation point. Everybody says tonify the yin, yin deficiency this, yin deficiency that. Everything is yin deficiency. Liver yin deficiency, kidney yin deficiency. You want to use a little bit du zhong, maybe the kidney yin, maybe I'll do it, maybe not. Who knows, maybe there'll be fire symptoms. Wu Zhitong, the founder of Wen Bing school, one of the main figures, said it's all backwards. So people like Zheng Qing'an, other people used to call him fire god. They're not God and they're not fire. They just held fast to the root of Chinese medicine. The same root Zhang Zhongjing did, which was practiced for the ages. Right? The Wen Bing school came much, much later. Zhu Danxi with the yin deficient, etc. came from the 1200s. 1200, 1500 years later. But for us, it's really difficult to do what Zheng Qing'an said. Really, to differentiate yin and yang. What's the difference? What's going on here? What we study today in school is a problem. The results, if we apply potent medicine, is a big problem. Can't do it. You start using, that's why they said use foods at 3 grams. Meaning use a little bit, can get problem. But is this really the core of our medicine? The potent herbs, we just use a little bit, just don't get in trouble. Why shouldn't we make it different? Meaning we really need to explore what Chinese medicine should be like, and then if we really understand, we use potent medicine, and guess what? It works. Just if we don't know, if we use potent medicine, it's like running red light, full speed. Sometimes you might not hit another car, but many times you will. And so it's not about full speed in the traffic light. It's rather know the rules. Green, all right, I can go. Red, I can't. But this is difficult. We don't study that so much today. How about other questions?
So based on the cycle of pure transformation, have you prescribed herbs to be taken at specific times?
All the time. It's very, very important and not taught. How to cook, when to cook, what to do, grind to powder, or make it in decoction, or put it in pills, or give it in the evening, give it in the morning, before, after meal, etc. Nobody really ponder into this, but this is very, very important. So I have, for example, another story of a patient who had a ectopic pregnancy. They had to remove the tube. And she had really, really bad pains here from the surgery for 2 months. Don't want to go away. They don't go away. It's always pressure. She does. The doctor said that adhesions and this should go away after a couple of weeks. It's not going away. So I gave her a formula, Sinisan, which has 4 herbs. But 3 of them would be to cook in decoction. 1 of them I had to grind in my office myself. Not granules or anything like that. To grind it myself for 10 minutes. She took the herbs. The next week she comes back. And that was just recently, a month ago. So she comes back, she said, I told my husband, he doesn't believe me. I said, what? He said, I went to sleep at night after drinking the herbs, the way I told her to cook these 3 herbs and add the powder that I grind myself of the jikhe. She said, all of a sudden I woke up, I felt really dizzy. I felt the whole room is spinning, and she said, I felt like someone takes my hips and twisting them around, like my stomach turns upside down. But after 2 minutes, I fell back asleep. Woke up in the morning, gone. She said, my husband doesn't believe me. And that's the problem that we have with Chinese medicine. Stories like I hear from my teachers, the average practitioners, you just can't believe it. Why? Because the average practitioners can reproduce it. But should we just be content with that? Being the average practitioner and feel good, everybody's doing it, then it's fine? It's not. I aspire to be like my teacher. You know, I want to reproduce this kind of result. The only bad thing about it, he said, well, there's no shortcuts. Need to walk the walk. Grind the classics, grind them for many years to try to comprehend what's the problem. It's not just know the symptoms, you know, like that's how we learn the Shanghanlun today. You know, Taiyang disease, if it's stiff neck, this and that, Guizhe tongue. The other symptom, Ma Huang tongue. Good, we know the Shanghanlun. This is not where Zhang Chongjing is coming from. This is not where Zheng Qing'an is coming from. So this is like, but the study of Chinese medicine should be this. Like pondering into these questions, cultivating ourselves, and this happens only by grinding the classics. Grinding this kind of difficulties. What does the I Ching talk? What is pure transformation and transformation? And if you read the translations today, they don't translate it like this. I already translated it for you in a different way. The original quote in English will read, when heaven and earth unite, the myriad things are born. When male and female unite, the myriad things are born. Also. This is not the meaning, even though you could read it like this. Meaning it's like repetitive sentence. Heaven and earth unite, everything is born. Man and female unite, everything is born. It's not. The first one says pure transformation. The other one says Hua Sheng, transforming into birth. In ancient times, the time of the I Ching, they weren't throwing around characters. You know, everyone has a picture with a great meaning behind it. The way they compose it. It's very, very sparse in words, but deep in meaning. And that's, you know, something to consider. So even if you read the English translation, it's very difficult. You don't know this. You can't tell them. So that's why the path starts like it started for me. I wasn't born Chinese. Maybe you thought I was, but I'm not. I had to learn it. You know, well, I had to walk the walk. Otherwise, it's difficult. But that's, for me, what I conceive as part of studying Chinese medicine. Read the classics. You don't need to read translations. You need to plug in to the source. That's how you become the translator. Other people will come to study with you. You need to plug in there. It's not about just sticking needle and relieving a headache. It's really trying to figure out what's going on. How about other? I saw other hands. Did I answer your question?
You kind of answered my question already. I was just going to ask you if the state of pure transformation versus transformation of the product is sort of similar to the concept of a state of unity versus a state of separation and differentiation.
Yes. It all has to do with this question, right? Yi, right? The book of changes, change. If there's no change, it's called the pre-heaven state, which is eternal. If there is change, it's our life here. It's changing, right? Baby, adulthood, decline, death. So it is all about that. But the question is how to connect them together. Because we want to live to the fullest heavenly years, like it says in the first chapter of the Neijing, right? The ancient, they knew the Tao, they knew the numbers, etc. They lived to the fullest heavenly years. They went to be 100 and then they departed. We don't want to be 70. We could be 120, but we want to live to the fullest years. So that's part of it. But the change is part of our life. No change, it's like a dead person. That's not good. No change. We want the change, but we want to harmonize it with heaven. That's the root of it.